Again, my name is Janet, and I'm part of a small consulting business here in Vancouver called Fawkes Holly. And we work exclusively with small nonprofits, and we help them on their fundraising and marketing side of things. So we do that in a few different ways. The first way is that we do a lot of what we call development audits. So we sit down with clients and we look at their fundraising program. We try to figure out, hey, what are your weaknesses, strengths, opportunities? What's happening here to get you where you are today? And then we also work with them to develop fundraising plans. So that means that we kind of help them set goals, we set some key strategies and then tactics to help them with those goals. And then we also develop very detailed calendars of activities for how people do goals. And lastly, we sometimes do hands-on work with our clients as well in executing on those tactics. So most of our clients have, I would say, $1 million or less. Most of them actually probably $500,000 budgets or less. Sometimes no fundraising staff, one fundraising staff is very common. So I really understand the plight of a very small nonprofit and how you are so strapped for resources. Your to-do list is 1,000 items long, and it's really hard to figure out how to prioritize your day. So know that that's the background that I'm coming from, and that all my content was really developed through my experience working with small nonprofits. Okay. Should I just go into the rest of the stuff?
I was just gonna. So all I was really gonna tell you, I was lucky enough to attend the capacity conference. Here, attend the capacity conference.
Woo!
So,
if you did, you're about to hear a repeat. So
basically, it was Eli and I that attended the conference, so that's great. We were lucky enough to see Lee, who's Janet's business partner, and the session was so amazing and so inspiring that I was like, we need to get these people at Squared Dan because we need to have this presentation for you folks because I think that the team of Fawkes Holly has a lot to share. They're amazing. They're inspirational.
don't hype it too much.
I mean, I know what you mean. So that was really all I wanted to say, that I'm really excited to see this presentation and share her expertise with us. So thank you for coming, and I will now pass it back to you. Do you want to share?
No, that's okay. Things. You're going to cut all.
Of course.
There you go.
Down to type 5.
It's not tricky here.
And do you need this fancy thing closer to you?
Oh, I guess I need to advance the slides somehow.
From time to time. Whoop.
Okay, so while we get this set up, let me also just say that I'm really excited to share this content with you. I'm going to talk about something that I think is one of the most exciting parts of fundraising, and something that I think you can also really enjoy about your job. I'm guessing that most of you got into the nonprofit field because you care about people and because you care about community. And I think that this is one of the parts of fundraising that's really very community driven and gets to the heart of that question of how can we develop meaningful long-term relationships with our donors. Okay, so we're going to dive in here. So this is the number one question I get asked from my clients and my prospective clients. We are a small charity with extremely limited time and resources. Where should we focus our efforts to have the highest return on our investment? And that's the question that I'm going to focus on answering for you today. But before we do that, what I want to do is just draw your attention to this graph here, or this chart. You're probably all quite familiar with this. This is what's called the donor cycle. I'm just going to very briefly go over it, just for the benefit of the non-fundraisers in the room, and just to make sure that we all have a common language to discuss donor retention today. So the blue arrow there represents acquisition, which is the activity of acquiring new donors to your organization. Can you guys all hear me? Is the volume okay? Cultivation is the process of your donor getting to know you and learning more about what you do. This is kind of like the first couple dates. They're sort of getting a sense for what your impact is, what your values are, can they see their own values aligning with those things. And then solicitation is the process of actually asking your donor to make a contribution. So that could be in the form of an email, it could happen at an event. In the case of major gifts, it might happen in person. There's lots of ways that the ask can actually happen, but it's important that it does happen. And then stewardship is what happens after you ask for money. So that's the warm fuzzies. That's where you really share your gratitude and your thanks with your donor in hopefully a very clear and direct way. And then as you can see, good stewardship leads back into cultivation, which is how you're going to get back around to solicitation again and develop that ongoing cycle, which is why we call it donor cycle. Oops. I won't trip myself tonight. Okay, so donor cycle aside, let's get back to this question. Where should we focus our efforts to have the highest return on our investment? Retention. This is what my presentation is going to be all about. I think you should focus your efforts on donor retention. I think you can make a significant impact on your organization's bottom line by improving donor retention at your organization. And honestly, I think you might actually really enjoy these activities as well. So, what is donor retention? The number of your organization's donors who gave last year and also give again this year as a percentage. So the opposite of retention is sometimes called donor attrition, which is the percentage of donors who fall off your list because you haven't successfully renewed them year over year. But we're going to focus on retention because I think that's the positive side of the story. So who can tell me, you don't have to tell me what it is, but put up your hand if you know right now the retention rate at your organization. Okay, nobody, silence, okay, great. So I have a task for you by the end of this week. I think it would be great if everybody could go back to the office tomorrow with the goal of figuring out what is your organization's retention rate. And no excuses because I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. So how you calculate your retention rate is the number of donors that gave in both 2016 and 2017 divided by the total number of donors that gave in 2016. So for example, if you had 37 donors that gave in both 2016 and 2017, and you had 100 donors that gave in 2016, then 37 over 100, the retention rate is 37%. And let me also just say that I know from my own experience, you don't have to have a fancy Razor's Edge database to be able to get this number. If you do have a fancy one, great. There's probably a report. You can just click it and you can get this done in 2 minutes. If you don't have one, you can do this just by exporting your donor IDs and listing them in Excel. I've done this for most of my clients who don't have fancy databases. So if you want to talk to me more about exactly the steps to do that, I'm happy to chat with you after the presentation. Okay, so once you know your donor retention rate, which you will by Friday, you're probably going to wonder, how does this stack up to everybody else? 46%. That is the donor retention rate in Canada currently. And this is based on a Bloomerang study from 2017. It actually shows the retention rate in Canada has been declining the last few years. The highest retention rates are among religious organizations, and the lowest retention rates are among human service and health organizations. The highest donor retention rate I've personally seen in my career was around the early 70s, 72, 73. So just to say that there is a lot of room to grow here. There's so much, we can do so much better as a sector, and individually at each of your organizations, you can probably all do better than you are currently doing. This is a kind of an even sadder number. My presentation isn't going to be about second gift strategy, so I'm not really going to go into this much today. But I just also wanted to highlight that the new donor retention rate in Canada is 23%, which means that only 2 people who gave to your organization for the first time last year are likely to give again this year. So, or going to give again this year. So we have a lot of work to do there as well. All right, so here we go, some real talk. What's 10 times more painful, arduous, and expensive than thanking our donors? anyone have an idea? Eli, what's the answer?
I'm thinking you're actually getting that donor the first time.
Yes, acquiring them. So we are not going to talk about acquiring donors today, as you've probably already discerned. We are going to talk about how to keep the donors that you have already spent all that time and money to acquire. Okay, so why they love us and leave us, and how to put an end to this madness. I think the first place to start here is to think about, why are our donors leaving in the first place? What do you think? Does anyone have any ideas? Why do donors stop giving?
They don't know the value of their impact.
Yeah, great one. You in the back there? They forget? Yeah, definitely.
You don't ask.
Yep, maybe you forget to ask them. They forget, you forget, yep. Anybody else? Any other ideas? Yeah, for sure. That's a very competitive marketplace for charities, definitely.
You don't think.
Yeah, perhaps you don't thank them. Yeah, you guys are hitting on all the big ones here. About to see these things in a list. Okay, so this is from a Network for Good study from 2013. So you can see, number one, they can no longer afford it. That's not something you can control as a fundraiser, so don't worry about that. 16% donor has died, can't control that either. People die. But among the other ones, 18% poor service or communication. They were never thanked, somebody said that. They have no memory of supporting the charity, they forgot. There was no information about how their donation was used. Someone said that over here as well. They don't understand the impact. Some of them thought the charity didn't need them anymore. That's a bit sad. So here's a theme. Poor communication. That is the theme of, I think I did the math, and 53% of donors stop giving because of poor communication. Now, that's sad, but what's not sad is that that's something we can control. We can change that. So I have a lot of ideas tonight about how we can do better and how we can change that. Also, I just want to say, if anyone has any questions and going along, do feel free to put up your hand if you don't understand something or want to clarify. Okay, so where is the breakdown happening? Where is that lack of good communication? I have an idea of where I think it is. It's here. In my experience, this poor communication is largely falling down in the stewardship realm. I think as fundraisers, we can get very focused on yellow and red, especially red. There's a lot of complexities around asking for money. We get really focused on that, and we forget about stewardship, which is very, very important for a donor's experience. So just to illustrate this, I'm going to ask you to use your imaginations a little bit with me for a few minutes. Imagine that you have a 15-year-old or a niece. She's going to turn 15 in a couple of weeks. And you know 15 is a big milestone for her because her parents are going to let her go out with her friends sometimes without them. And you know that she loves movies. So you think, you know what would be a great birthday present would be a movie gift certificate. So you go online, maybe you go down to the theater, you buy the certificate, you put it in a card in an envelope, put it up her address, pop it in the mail. Still a week before her birthday, so you're pretty sure it's going to arrive before. And then you wait. You wait. You wait. You never hear from your niece. How are you going to feel? You're probably going to wonder, did she get it? Did it get lost in the mail? Maybe she doesn't like the movies anymore. You might even wonder, what movie did she see? I'd like to know. Who did she take with her? Did they get popcorn? I think you're not going to feel great about that experience. You're probably not going to be mad, but it's not going to be something you remember. Except the next year, when her birthday rolls around again, when she's turning 16, you might think, maybe she doesn't need a present from me, maybe she didn't notice, or it doesn't mean much to her, so it'll probably be okay if I don't get her anything. So I think you can see the connection I'm trying to make there. when you make it personal like that, I think it helps us illustrate the fact that, of course, our donors don't want to give again when they're not thanked properly. Of course they don't, because we didn't complete the experience for them. They don't understand how much it meant to us. They're not even sometimes sure if we got it. So I really want to encourage you that stewardship needs to be more of a priority, because giving is personal for your donors, always. So it's very important that we communicate this. Okay. So how are we going to do this? How can we do better? So here I'm going to reference Penelope Burke, who all the fundraisers here probably know about. She has done a ton of research in the States about donors. She has a very famous book called Donor-Centered Fundraising, which is a very data-driven thesis that says that donors are looking for 3 things. So I'm going to go over what those things are with you. The first one is donors are looking to receive a prompt and meaningful acknowledgement whenever a gift is made. In Penelope's research, it says that 78% of donors would definitely or most likely give again to a charity that provided them with prompt, personal acknowledgement, followed by a meaningful update on a program they funded. 78% is way higher than 46%. There's a lot of money in there. Number 2, having the gift assigned to a specific program, project, or initiative. So this really gives you the opportunity to let your donors know about a specific project that you're doing. And a great way to connect them to that is to tell a story, let them know what's happening on the ground, connect them to your program staff, to your clients. That means a lot to them. Another study from the Case Foundation in 2013 found this. 60% of donors want impact and success stories. These donors will renew their support when they know that your organization is making a positive change in the world. And here actually what I'd like to do is just draw your attention to the 3 main reasons that people give in Canada. This is from an Imagine Canada study, and this is in order. First reason is for a personal connection. Second reason is to make an impact in the world. And the third reason is to take a stand on an issue. And when we forget those things, and we don't let our donor know how their gift did those things, how it made an impact, how it helped show that they're taking a stand, then we're doing a disservice to that donor and to their generosity. Okay, this is the last thing that Penelope says we have to do. Receiving a report on what was accomplished with the last gift before being asked for another one. This is really important. This is about the order of that donor cycle. Stewardship comes before cultivation and solicitation again. So this might seem obvious, but it's something worth considering when you're planning your campaign to ask for money. Wait, have we already thanked these donors for giving before we're going to ask them again? Repetition of impact and gratitude. That's what we're seeing here. Okay, so this is another point from the Case Foundation study. Donors require multiple touch points before they will give again. Now, what do we mean by multiple touch points? This is a really good question, I think. Personally, I would recommend at least 3, and 5 is better. So you want to land somewhere between 3 and 5. And these do not have to be complicated. They don't each have to be a lengthy report. What I mean by touch points is something could be a voicemail, a personal email, could be an email with a story attached, an annual report with a little sticky on the front, with a little note to them. There's lots of different ways that you can reach out to your donors with that message of gratitude to really make sure that it's getting across. Okay, so now that we all agree that it matters, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can do this better. Tips and tools for making it happen. So this is also very important for this time of year. We're coming up on Christmas. You're about to receive more donations in the next couple months than you do the entire rest of the year. So it's worth thinking now, are we prepared for this? Do we know how to, from a process perspective and from a communications perspective, do we know how to communicate gratitude to our donors? So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. One more thing from Penelope before we move on. Gratitude is not the last step in a campaign, the first step towards your next gift. So always worth keeping in mind that you want to bookend everything that you're doing with gratitude. One, okay. Here we go. We're going to make stewardship personal. So in an age of MailChimp, merge tags, and all that stuff, we all know that we can add our donor's first name to an email or a letter pretty easily, or their address, or whatever it is. But I want you guys to take it a step further than that. I think we can do better. We can be more specific. We can be warmer. People can tell when you're just using mail merge. It doesn't make it a personal letter that they're receiving. So let's think about how we could do that a bit better and really get across that idea that I know who you are as my donor. I understand the contribution that you've made to our organization. Okay, so here's an example of a thank you letter. This thank you letter, I swear I've seen so many times in my career. Basically, they're usually something like this. Dear Mr. Sam Smith, thank you for your donation to our charity. We have been working for over 40 years to bring clean water to people in Kenya. Our team works hard every day to save lives, and your donation helps us build new programs to bring our vision to life. Thank you. Carrie Bergred, Development Director. That's okay. I mean, at least it's a thank you letter, right? Not bad. I think this one is better. Hi, Sam. Wow, thank you for the $55 gift you made on Tuesday evening. We're so grateful. With it, you're championing clean water in Kenya and are transforming lives. I know that our team couldn't do this without you. With much gratitude, Rebecca. Rebecca Bennett, President and CEO. Okay, so here's some things I want to talk about. First name. I would encourage you to go with first name over Mr. Sam Smith. There are some donors who don't like it, but they will tell you that. And everyone else doesn't mind it, and actually it builds familiarity, makes the donor feel known, and kind of helps you develop that relationship that you're looking for. Second, don't be afraid of using bold, underlining, a highlighter, draw a smiley face. Just add things to the letter that kind of make certain messages stand out and make it seem less just like a block of boring text. Specificity. Thank you for the $55 gift you made on Tuesday evening. So you're being specific about the amount that they gave and when they gave it. Even just these two pieces of information together are going to make the donor automatically think, wow, they're thanking me for my gift that I made, rather than just this charity in general appreciates receiving money. And that makes a big difference. With that next sentence there, you can see, with it, you're championing clean water. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you letters are about the donor. They're not about your organization and how great you are. Most thank you letters I read, you may be thinking, we already know this, Janet. Maybe you know it, but it's not expressed in your thank you letters most of the time. Most of the time when I read a thank you letter, it's about how great the charity is. So I really want you to think about how you can flip that language around and make it about how great your donor is. A really great way to do this is to just, after you've written something to a donor, scan through it and circle the number of times you use the word you. And if you don't see a bunch of circles on the page, then take another run at it. Rebecca, handwritten signature. That's nice. A human being did this for me. Rebecca Bennett, President and CEO, not the Director of Development. Directors of Development, you guys are great, doing really important work. Your donors don't really care about you, to be honest. They care about the leader of the organization. So they want to know, does the person who's running this place appreciate me? Yes. Okay. All right, now that we know how to make it personal, here's step number 2. This is also not rocket science, but it's very important. Don't put stewardship off. Make it a priority for your team. Do it now, like right now, today. Don't put it at the bottom of your list. Don't do it tomorrow. Don't do it next week. I know this is so hard in small organizations. Like, you have so many other things to do. But this really matters, and it will, as I'm going to continue reminding you and showing you, it will impact your revenue. So if you're able to prioritize this every morning or every other morning, it'll really help your organization in the long run. And I would say that you want to aim for a 72-hour turnaround. Every donor who makes a gift to your organization should hear from you personally within 72 hours. It's not unreasonable. I would say that's becoming an industry standard, or at least something that we all would hope to aim for. And an autoresponder does not count. So when I say hear from you, I mean a phone call, a personal email, or maybe a postcard put in the mail or a card in the mail if you don't have their email or phone number. Reiterate your gratitude. We talked about this 3 to 5 times. Once isn't enough. I think sometimes we make a phone call or send an email, and then it's like, check something off our to-do list. We did it. Donor thanked. Pat on the back. I'm really good at donor stewardship. But there's a very high chance that your donor did not digest that information. They're very busy. They're thinking about their lives and a lot of other things that they have going on. They're not thinking about you all the time. So one quick voicemail that they're half listening to while they're making dinner for their kids, or one of many emails in their inbox one morning, they're likely to miss that message. So that's part of the purpose of reiterating the message. In marketing, we know that people need to hear a message 3 times before they really get it. So this is the same here. That's why you want to aim for that 3 to 5 times. You really need to make sure not just that you've done it and you checked it off your list, but that your donor has heard you, absorbed it, and understands and feels that gratitude from you. This is a quote from Rose, who's a fundraiser with KCI here in Vancouver, really a friend of ours. And she said to us many times, for your donors, giving is always personal. So I think if you remember that when you're doing your stewardship, it really helps you, because your donors made a personal decision to make this contribution. So your response to them needs to reflect that and be personal in nature as well. People aren't giving to you because it's part of their job. They're giving to you because they want to make an impact with you. Okay. End of that section. All right, someone else saw this coming. I think it was you, Ashley. Didn't ask. With most of my clients, when I'm trying to diagnose a problem with donor retention, I ask them 2 things. Are you thanking your donors? We just dealt with that, you are. 2, are you asking your donors for money? And this might seem obvious, but when it comes to small shop fundraising especially, this sometimes gets missed. A lot of small organizations in Vancouver that are doing amazing grassroots work in the communities think that what they do is so powerful and important, because it is, but they think what they do is so powerful and important that their donors will just know they need money and will just open up their wallets and give to them. But it doesn't work like that. It's our job to communicate to our donors that we need money through a clear solicitation. There you go, a reminder. The number 1 reason people don't give is because they aren't asked. All right, this is maybe scary, maybe exciting, I don't know. For fundraisers, it's probably scary. 82 days left in 2018 as of October 10th today. So that number means that there's still time. We still got time to plan. If you have not started planning your year-end fundraising solicitation yet, that is okay. There's plenty of time to plan and plenty of time left to ask our donors. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about a few ways that you can do that. And I'm hoping that this will apply to most of you in different ways. What I'm going to suggest is something that can be applied at a small organization where you have literally nothing planned yet, or at a bigger organization where maybe you've had a marketing calendar in place since January, and you're like, yeah, all our stuff's already done. We know what we're doing. That's okay. You can actually run this idea alongside a marketing campaign, and I think it can really help improve your retention rates. Okay, here's what I'm going to propose. A year-end retention campaign. And when I say year-end, I just want to clarify, I mean the last 6 weeks of the year. I don't mean the last 3 days of the year. I know there are legitimate campaigns based around the last 3 days of the year when a lot of money comes in. But in annual fundraising, at least 30% of your money is probably coming in the last 6 weeks of the year, probably more. So the last 6 weeks is very, very important for getting those gifts in the door. And here's an idea that you can do on your own if you're a one-person show. First, you need to pull a list of your donors who have given last year but not this year. So donors who made gifts in 2017 but have not yet made a contribution in 2018. Okay, and then as you craft your campaign, you're going to use language specific to that segment of donors. You're going to let them know that you know them, you know who they are, and you know what their contribution has been to your organization. So here's an example. Hi, Sam.
First name again?
We are so grateful for your generous support in years past. You've truly been a champion for people in our community. This holiday season, I'd like to invite you to continue transforming people's lives in Vancouver by making a gift. I'll make sure your support gets put to work right away, providing a safe, warm, welcoming place for our community members to truly belong. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Baz Bensler, President and CEO. This could be in the form of a letter, could be in the form of an email. As you can see, it's pretty simple. I'm going to highlight a few things in it for you. Okay, there we have the first name again. In the second line, your generous support in past years. So we're showing them, we know you've given to us in the past. We know you already care about what we do, and you're already a part of this family. The next paragraph, I'd like to invite you to continue transforming people's lives. So this is an invitation. It's warm. It's inviting people to do great work with you. We're using the word I here. This holiday season, I'd like to invite you. This is a great alternative to we, because what I think it does is it really builds that personal connection between the donor and the person writing the letter. We often use we because we mean we as an organization, but that diminishes the personal connection. It's not as powerful. And it's a very easy change to make in your copy. All right, the next arrow there. I'll make sure your support gets put to work right away. Your donation is going to make an impact in our community right now. We're going to make sure of that. Handwritten signature again, and again from the president and CEO. Okay, number 3. After you put that letter or email out there into the world, you could sit in your office and wait, get a whole bunch of other things on your do list done. Or what I would encourage you to do is remember that it's your job to follow up. I think I heard from someone that maybe your donor just forgot. This is way more common than we think. People are really, really busy and they're not thinking about you. They have a lot of other things on the go. And they probably still care about you and they probably still want to give to you. They just are very busy.
So in that realm, I've got a question. One of the boards I'm on, they don't want to bother. Even asking donations bother. So I'm wondering, what kind of conversation do you want to have with folks to share the necessity of follow-up?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and something that I would say is very common, especially among small organizations, especially where the board members are being asked to be quite active participants in fundraising. When they're hesitant and they think it's bothersome, there's a lot of breaks that go on, right? Actually, I was going to share an example in the section about, not that you interrupted, this is perfect, right on target. I have a client who's a very similar situation to that. They work in a very sensitive area as well. They work with families who are grieving because they lost a child or a young parent. So this organization is particularly sensitive about how they do all of their communications, and they really are nervous because a lot of people that have given to them or have supported them in some way are going through this very difficult transition in their lives. So they're very hesitant. So they have the we don't want to bother people, plus they have this fear of dealing with vulnerable people. So you do have to do a bit of education with the board. You also have to sort of address it as a larger culture issue around the board's understanding of their role of fundraising. I found that doing just a little bit of fundraising education around even something like the donor cycle is really helpful. And then I think another really great way is to get them involved. So what we did with this organization is first of all, we had to even talk them into letting us send a letter, which we did. We sent a letter. It was a little bit soft, but it still had a solicitation and it had a story that was really great. And then we had the board members get together one evening in December, and we asked them to call the people that received the letter to do a follow-up call. So this follow-up call was very, very soft. We're not talking about a hard telemarketing sales call here. The call was basically something like, "Hi, this is Sam from this organization. We sent you a letter a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to follow up to see if you got it. We want to let you know how much we really appreciate your past support and wondered if you had any questions about it." So something that is like very soft and just kind of opens up a conversation with the donor and really just serves as a lot of the times that reminder of, hey, there's that letter sitting on your counter that you haven't read yet. Don't forget to take a look at it. We will know if you've read it because we care about you and your support means a lot to us. And we were kind of nervous. We weren't really sure how it was going to turn out. But the board members had a great time. They loved it. They got a lot of people that actually picked up the phone because we did it in the evening. And they had a lot of really meaningful conversations with donors and past supporters that love this organization and are so passionate about what they do. And regardless of the campaign results, which were quite good, I would say this experience in isolation of that was really valuable because the board members had this experience of people being like, oh, we love what you do. Like, we just didn't know that you needed money. Or, I just wasn't aware of even how you were funded. Or, oh yeah, I meant to do that, but it was sitting on my pile of mail on my to-do list. And the board members had a really positive experience. So I think for the most part, my answer to that question is like, it's difficult to get them to the point where they might feel comfortable picking up the phone, but I think if you can, and they do actually have that personal experience interacting with donors, it's so positive, and there's so much value to be gained from that personal connection between the board member and the donor, that you can then take those memories and that experience and go forward from there. But it is a culture shift. It takes time. Certainly the first time you do a campaign like that, there's no way you're going to convince your board that you should follow up 3 or 4 times. Even just one follow-up you can start with, and you can build from there. So some of the suggestions I have for follow-ups are a phone call. Even a soft one is fine. Email follow-ups from a letter are great. There's lots of, and then when we're talking about year-end as well, don't hesitate to send that additional follow-up right before the end of the year, of course, before that tax deadline, just reminding people if they haven't given yet. Yeah, I think that following up is definitely key and a step that we all miss because we're busy and we're afraid of bothering people. And our campaign results would all be higher if we would follow up more.
Kind of related to bothering. If I were to open my inbox right now, there's like 40 things from like promotions that I've signed up to, stores that I like, books, and like just a bunch of things. How do you make your message organization cut through that? Because I feel as though there's an element of communication in modern society as well. So.
Totally, I completely agree with you. One way that we found to be really effective, which it depends on the size of your organization if you can manage this or not, but is to send a personal email. Like, don't send it from your MailChimp account. Don't put a photo in. Don't make it look shiny and markety. Have it be like from one of the fundraisers or even an intern's email account that just says, similar to what that language was that's like, hey, Sam, we sent you this letter. I'm really hoping you'll look at it. Give me a shout if you have any questions. Your partnership means a lot to us. Here's my phone number, my personal phone number. Feel free to give me a call if you want to talk about this more. I find that that's pretty effective, is to just get out of that marketing headspace and don't create an email banner. Make the subject line and the preview line something that's like very conversational, general, personal. Use the word you, use their first name, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a great question. Does anyone else have questions about following up? Yeah. You can vary the channels that you use. So email, phone, texting even. It depends on the circumstance for that. I have some clients where it... What was that, Eli? I missed it.
Texting is my new secret weapon. Totally do it.
Yeah, okay. So I have some clients where texting is really effective. It kind of depends on the relationship you have with your donor, if that's appropriate or not. You can do posts on social media that hopefully they will see. Those aren't targeted, but they might come see it and be like, oh, right, that thing. Yeah, those are some different ideas that I have in order to mix it up. What was your question? Your question was how do we...
Yeah, how do you... I work with this role, so I'm the kind of manager providing some need sales cycles, like either an article survey or sharing. Just kind of trying to parallel that. Follow up without saying.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought. Think about what might be of value to the donor, definitely. Some ideas around that might be a tactic that I've used a lot in the past is to share a really brief quote or story in my email to a donor of an experience that I had with the program staff or on the front lines of the organization with sort of a tone of like, this happened this morning. Maybe it didn't happen this morning. Maybe it happened like last month. You don't have to make up a story. It can be a real story. But add that sense of like recency, like this just happened and I really want to tell you about it right now. I think that's the kind of thing that might be along those lines, be adding value to the donor, letting them know like important things are happening on the streets of Vancouver right now that you can be a part of. Yeah, another way might be if you have a program deadline you can remind people about. Like, we have to serve a number of families by this date or that kind of thing. It gives you an opportunity there to create some urgency with a deadline. Oh, tax receipts. You can also remind them about tax receipts. Yeah, Amanda.
Do you have like guidelines for how long you multiple follow-up?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't have a standard guideline. I mean, usually we're talking about a 6-week campaign here or a 4-week campaign, so you can't wait too long. I would say probably a week. Yeah, a week is a good give or take estimate, I think. You can also give updates around like what's happening with the campaign. So that might be providing some information that they don't have that might be exciting to them. And I know it's tiresome, like I know it's really hard, but that's our job. It's our job as fundraisers to remind people about this opportunity to give. And if you are bothering somebody too much, they will tell you. That's another thing to keep in mind. Like, don't just assume that because you've had to send 3 or 4 follow-ups that you're bothering them. If they haven't told you that you're bothering them, you're probably not. And maybe you are a little bit, but, that's the price we pay. And for the most part, if you're bothering them too much, they will tell you. And I find that that's actually kind of a jumping off point for what can be a really meaningful conversation. So sometimes you push and push and push, and then you find that the donor lets you know it's too much, and then you really need to respect that, and you need to make some notes in your database, which is why it's so important to have good records about that person really didn't appreciate being texted. But maybe that's the jumping off point for a more fruitful conversation that you have with that donor. Kind of like complaints. You probably have had that same experience donors who reach out to you to complain about something, it's a bit scary, but for the most part, it means that they care, and it's usually results in a much more meaningful conversation where they come around and actually end up giving or caring more about the organization. Yeah.
Can we use things like giving?
Ah, interesting you should say that. What a segue. Look at that, Michelle. It's like I planted it. So I'm not an expert on Giving Tuesday, but Ashley asked me to talk about it. So what I thought actually was that we could maybe have a bit of a group discussion about it. So here's the question. Is Giving Tuesday a good year-end campaign? Is it a good way to remind your donors to give? Really good question. Bit of a tangent, but I still think it's very relevant, as noted by Michelle's question. So I think the answer to this question off the bat is maybe, but I'd like to talk about it a little bit more with you guys as a group. Okay, what I want to do is a little bit of pros and cons. So, Giving Tuesday's really only been around in Canada for about 5 years. I'm definitely not an expert. I'm not really sure if anybody's really an expert, but I think our collective experiences together can probably help each other out a bit. So, from your experience, what do you guys think are some pros of doing a Giving Tuesday campaign?
It can be a really good jumping off point. People to the organization and may not have content.
Yeah, great. Yeah, there's like the social pressure to give at that time. Yeah, for sure. Michelle?
There's like the urgency that you're really involved in social media.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think.
Yeah, for sure. People want to be a part of something. It's a collective activity that you're doing with.
They get to tweet. I mean, it's a bit more of an interactive. With that.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely more interactive. I agree. Anybody else? Any thoughts with positive Giving Tuesday? Eli?
Well, most of us just are not asking often enough, so this is a prompt for us to remember to ask.
Right, great. So it's something in our calendar that's like, oh yes, ask donors on this day, follow up with donors on this day. People care about giving on this day. I also should have said off the bat, in case anybody doesn't know what Giving Tuesday is, Giving Tuesday is November 27th this year. It's the Tuesday after American Thanksgiving, and it's a movement to get people thinking about community and giving on that day, whether it's volunteering or donating or whatever it looks like. And the money that's been raised on Giving Tuesday, if you look at a graph, is like do for the last 5 years. So fundraisers are kind of concerned and obsessed with this problem or opportunity. Right. Okay. And then Thank You Thursday. I don't know much about that.
Thank you.
I love that.
I sent to Cyber Monday. They're saying stop. Yeah, Friday stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other pros for Giving Tuesday?
There's a lot of like internal energy, so you can do more for your donors who donate that day to energize them.
Yeah, that's great. Like, do you find your program staff are energized about it too? Cool. Yeah, that's great. So getting your whole team excited. Yeah.
I haven't run a campaign before. The reading is that you ask.
Yeah. Younger people, millennials, even younger than millennials. Yeah. Okay.
In terms of, like obviously the yes, graphic, but who runs meeting.
Yeah, for sure. I think the unselfie is a good example of that. That was part of the Giving Tuesday thing, I think, was people would do hashtag unselfie and they would show a picture of themselves doing something for the community. That one had a lot of traction. Cool. Okay, well, here's my list. I think you guys touched on most of the things. Here's the things I thought of. It's trendy. So people are talking about it. They care about it. Collective giving. I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that as a community we're saying, like, let's do this together. Since fundraising really is about community building. It drives people to get online, so organizations that still receive a lot of donations through the mail, this might be a good way to get your donors switching how they're giving, and giving online is generally always cheaper for your organization, so this could be a positive thing. It creates a sense of urgency, Michelle mentioned that, with a deadline, invites engagement, we heard about that, social media as well. There's lots of available resources. The GivingTuesday.ca website has a lot of resources you can download about how to create a successful Giving Tuesday campaign. And it has excellent timing. November 27th is a great time to ask people for money. It always has been a great time, the end of November. Okay, cons. Does anyone have anything they hate about Giving Tuesday? Good dish. Let's hear it. Very noisy day, yeah, for sure. A lot of competition for people's attention.
It's hard to measure how many people would have been around.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually thinking of putting up a graph about like the increased money from Giving Tuesday, but I didn't really believe it because I thought maybe that money was coming in anyway to charities. So I'm very hesitant to say that Giving Tuesday is raising more money. I think that's a really good concern. Did you have one? No?
Yeah, actually, it was one reason. I love the Thank you Thursday. Thank you. Because I think that was the problems I had. Because it's such a great way to acquire new people, a lot of work fall off on it. And the thing. So it's like, yay, we did this thing, and then it's like they don't hear it until Giving Tuesday again next year. And so not that I grow.
Right, so people maybe aren't capitalizing the opportunity to build those relationships further and take it beyond Giving Tuesday.
Our fault, it's his fault, but
We can talk about all the bad things, it's okay. It's less personal, yeah. Because it's like everybody's giving today. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, here's the things I don't like. So it's trendy, also could be bad because everyone else is doing it, so not really unique or interesting. Inbox competition was mentioned. You get like so many emails on Giving Tuesday. How do you decide which ones to open, which ones to read, which ones to care about? Very annoying, and most of them are not great, to be honest, from a fundraiser's perspective. I think they're not a lot of the time not great fundraising for these two reasons. They're not often about the cause. A lot of them are just yelling at you that it's Giving Tuesday. But who really cares about that if you don't have something that you're trying to accomplish in the community? It's not donor-centered. It's about the charitable sector and what we think is important. And from my perspective, it's a little bit guilt-driven in its entire philosophy and existence. So Michelle mentioned this, that Giving Tuesday comes after Cyber Monday and Black Friday. So the general idea came from the fact that we've all spent a bunch of money on Monday on the TV or something we don't need, and we feel a little bit guilty about our excessive consumerism. So why don't we just assuage our guilt a little bit by making a charitable donation the next day? And that's not very inspiring. That's not why I'm in fundraising. I'm in fundraising to tell stories and get people excited about impact and changing the world. And I don't know, that's my little rant on what I don't like about Giving Tuesday. Okay, so I think the answer is sort of where we started with, is it can be, but don't abandon the basics in favor of what's trendy, what I would say. If you already have a campaign at that time of year that's really effective, then just do that. Don't forget about Giving Tuesday, you don't need it. You need to engage your donors at that time of year, and if you don't have a campaign at that time of year, then maybe it's a great opportunity to start one. There are a lot of resources for you. The one caution that I have is if you do want to start one and you haven't done one before, is please don't make it about Giving Tuesday. Make it about something your organization is doing. Make it impact driven, and then use Giving Tuesday, as Michelle mentioned, for the purpose of urgency and for the timing, because the timing of it is really good. And get people talking and engaged online, but talk about the thing that you're doing in the community. Don't talk about Giving Tuesday. And don't let it distract you from something you're already doing really well. So, what are the basics? This is just really brief overview. I'm not going to spend too long diving into this, but since I told you to go back to basics, here's just a quick reminder. Urgency is important. Make sure your campaigns are time sensitive. They answer the question of why now. Be specific. Tell your donor what they're giving to. This was missing in all of my examples I already showed you, so I know they could all be improved with a little bit of this is what the money's for. Emotional. A donor's decision to give is personal. Tell a story. Make it emotional. Let them know how they're going to change the world by being a partner with you. Please, please, please make it easy for the tech people. Don't have broken links. Don't have buttons that go to nowhere. Don't have non-responsive giving pages. It's so sad when people write amazing, inspiring copy and then donors don't give because it's just a little bit too hard. So make it as easy for your donors as possible. And lastly, as I've already hammered home a lot this evening, make it personal. Use your donor's name. Make sure they know that you know who they are. Segment if you can. Let them know, I know you've given in the past, or that they're new and that this might be their first year with you. Make sure that they know that you know who they are. All right, get a lot of that off without my notes. Okay, so I told you I was going to tell you that this would raise you more money. Let's talk more about that. All right. So here's some numbers for the nerds out there, like me, who like Excel and numbers. So this case study is loosely based on one of my clients. I rounded all the numbers to make it really easy to read. And what you're going to notice here is that the second line there, the number of new donors, that's pretty high, and that is going to stay the same the entire time. This organization is quite good at acquiring new donors. They know how to do it. They have a system that's working. But you can see in 2015 that they had a pretty abysmal retention rate. So they were going out and spending all this time acquiring new donors, and then they weren't keeping them around. So what we did was work with them on implementing a number of these strategies around thanking donors and really reporting to them on the impact that they're having. And then we started to see that the retention rate would increase. The number of gifts per donor stayed the same the entire time, didn't increase. Average gift increased slightly, but not very much, from 250 to 275. And you can see that hopefully by the end of this year, if they can reach 50%, that the revenue increased by about 40%. So that's a really significant revenue increase without really doing anything different other than stewarding your donors well and really focusing on increasing that retention rate. So that's why I think it's super important that everybody here knows their retention rate, because look how much more money you can raise. That's the number that that's the bar that you're trying to raise. Okay, I've been talking a lot, let's wrap it up. So, if you only remember 4 things from this evening, this is what I'd like you to take away. 1, donor retention is the easiest way to increase your revenue and expand your donor base. Strong, timely, personalized stewardship is the linchpin of donor retention. But that doesn't work unless you still remember to solicit your donors. That's important for retaining them. And finally, there's only 82 days left in the year, so make sure you're planning a year-end campaign. Don't panic. Don't worry. There's actually lots of time, but it's very important that you are reaching out with your donors, to your donors with a clear solicitation in the last 6 weeks of the year. Okay. That is all. That is all the content I prepared for you. For being such an attentive audience. Is there any questions or anything anyone would like to discuss further as a group? I don't have to be talking. Does anybody ever run a really... Oh, sorry, you have a question. Go for it. That's okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. Sure. I would say that there is quite a lot of data out there that shows, just to start with this, there's quite a lot of data that shows that donors that come to your organization through crowdfunding don't stick around. So, although it seems like a very enticing acquisition tool, And I think it can be if you're very intentional about the journey you put those donors on after they give to you through crowdfunding. For the most part, charities are not doing a good job of retaining those donors. So I don't really know if that's the fault of the charities or if that's just the nature of those donors. Eli's nodding his head. It might just be the nature of those types of donations and gifts is that people aren't likely to be starting out a long-term journey with you with that type of donation. So I guess my answer is that there's opportunity there, but not to really grow your foundation of loyal donors. Does anyone else have any experience or thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Michelle?
well, I did. It's a lot of. We were thinking. I was thinking. It's cheap.
It's very enticing, yes.
It's very enticing. It's kind of. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
still debating.
part of me thinks it might, this is not based on research, this is just my personal opinion. It might have a bit of a very long-term value for your organization in the sense that you can engage much younger donors in this way. And they might not stick around now and become annual donors or monthly donors or anything. But maybe it's a way for you to begin a relationship with a young person who many years down the road might be in the place in their life where they have more capacity and ability to become a more regular donor to you. But that's like real long term. That's not helping you in the next 5 years. Gordon?
I think there's certain platforms friendly, easy to share, sites with nonprofits that are not friendly, or it's made, or it's third not the best. Part of what I would say that whole user experience was great. Could you take that list out of a crowdfunding, plug it into your like CRM? It's like, do you have that permission to do that?
Yes, I would say that a lot of the crowdfunding platforms are pretty sexy technology-wise. Like they look great, and they probably look better than most of our donation forms. We have to be stuck with donor perfect and stuff like that. But I mean, you can take those email addresses and then communicate with those people directly. Legally, you can do that. But my understanding is it's just not especially effective at converting them. Laura, do you have something to add?
Yeah. Why do it?
Or maybe it's about acquiring volunteers.
Yeah.
I think crowdfunding is a good way to increase your volunteer base, maybe, if you're crowdfunding from the people in your community. Yeah, that's a really great question.
Not that I want to specific product launch. Sure, crowdfunding sources. They call me not. But it is more geared to the nonprofit world and
What's it called?
CrowdRise. I was like, I think, and they're yes, are definitely getting into that platform here. But I think that.
Yeah, my one final thought would be that I think it depends on the size of your organization and the amount of resources you have if this is something you should pursue. Almost all of, I think maybe 100% of my clients, I would tell them, no, don't do this. Like, unless you have quite a robust fundraising team with a bunch of junior people that you can set on, like, pursuing this strategy, if it's just you and someone else, or you're really tight, that's other things that are going to raise you way more money and be way more effective. Anyone have any other questions? Does anyone have a story they want to share about a Giving Tuesday campaign that they are proud of working on or thought was great or fun? Ashley?
I'm like, I'm not proud of it though. We actually, I think I mentioned, we chatted about this to start with. We actually used it as a launching longer campaign event. So it was like, here's our day, here's Here's who we are. Here's there. Small shop, so there's not a development director. Myself and my boss brainstorming things.
Yeah.
For us to see where this could go rather than latching onto.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of experiment. Yeah, for sure. I'm doing a campaign this year, so I have no idea whether, I can't tell you results at all, but I'm working on a campaign for a client that's a Giving Tuesday campaign that has a matching gift offer. So matching gifts are quite commonly used in Giving Tuesday. And then it's using Giving Tuesday as kind of like the deadline for when I want people to give by. So the campaign itself is actually about funding an awareness effort in Tanzania for this charity. And the campaign talks about a story of a baby and a family who would really benefit from this awareness effort. But then it's using Giving Tuesday as like, please give by this date. So that's a way that you can utilize Giving Tuesday for a deadline and to create urgency, but still make your campaign about the impact you want to have in the world with your donors. Yeah, cool. Anything else? Last chance? Oh, Gordon.
What's your take on like celebrity or like
Like Instagram influencers and that kind of thing?
I mean, that's like half of the time. Like actual people who are recognized as like philanthropists, whatever. Do you think trying to in that way?
I think it's for some charities, if you're big enough, I think there's probably a lot of things you have to have in place before a charity is ready for that kind of thing. Like, don't put the cart before the horse sort of thing. Like, if you don't have a really great website that's ready to receive a lot of visitors with some content that's going to get them excited and going to get them giving you your email addresses and that kind of thing, then it's not really going to help you reach your goals to pursue that kind of thing. So I think, yes, if it's in line with your other goals and other resources and strategies that your organization is pursuing. Is that a helpful answer?
About
Platforms
like some technology.
Sure. I'm not a tech expert by any means. Some people in here probably are, and maybe Eli can answer this question better than me. But one of the reasons that my partner Lee spoke at the Keela conference is that we love Keela. We recommend it to a lot of our clients. It's based in Vancouver. It's extremely simple, and it works really well for organizations who are transitioning into using a CRM for the first time. It does have a fair amount of limitations, but for an organization that just needs like a really simple place to organize their donor information and be able to have a number of different people access it and add to it, we find it to be really effective. And they also have, like, you can integrate your giving pages and stuff with them and get automatic tax receipts and stuff, so that takes some work off the backs of the administrators in small charities. And I find that in general, it works quite well and it looks quite good. So we'd recommend Keela for sure. Yeah. Okay, gonna wrap things up here? Cool, well I look forward to chatting with some of you more later. If you're gonna come up for drinks, I'll be there. And thank you so much for your time this evening.